Hey, what's happening everybody? I'll let you after back with a brand new video. Today's discussion is about continuing about the credit repair myths, some of the things that I need to bring you guys into awareness phase in reference to authorized users, some of the trade line stuff out there, and of course when you're looking to build your personal credit, what are some of the starting points for you so that you can enhance your personal credit profile to the best of your ability so that you can ultimately benefit from ensuring that you have a very strong underwriting capable credit profile, right? So that's the ultimate goal here. There's a lot of people who asked me in the past about personal credit in reference to authorized users. What are some of the steps to bring together a profile that is strong in terms of authorized users, to bring together a profile that makes sense when it comes to pretty much engaging yourself to services that offer the sale of authorized users? Is that the right direction? Is that something you want to do? Is that something that you want to start with? If not, then exactly what are some of the intricate steps in order to make sure that you actually obviously benefit from setting up these AU profiles, and what are some of the first steps to go about that, right? So in today's video, I'm going to break down step by step exactly what you need to look out for when it comes to authorized users. Is it beneficial right now? Is it something you should consider doing, or is it something that you should altogether forget about because ultimately it's not going to benefit you? And the reality is, if you're positioned the proper way, there's no what I would say is no need to concern yourself with, if you're building the right strategic profile for personal credit, that you need to worry about iffy shortcuts and stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying that authorized users are a shortcut per se. They've been used, for multiple decades in a row to successfully help individuals increase their credit scores, their FICO scores, right? And all of a sudden, there's a lot of different individuals telling me that, hey, Ali, my banks shut down my authorized user accounts, right? So essentially what's happening is they're shutting down my card. And in their point of view, they represent themselves as the primary card holders. So when they're adding people to their cards, basically as AUs, and the service providers who are basically engaging them to pay them a certain amount of dollars just to add more people to the AUs and rotate to the individuals, what's happening is the banks are becoming more and more aware. And it's coming to a position where the financial institutions themselves are very, very iffy with these type of situations. So if that be the case, then we have to be extremely careful, because authorized user accounts are not necessarily, the strongest things you can have on your credit profile. I always say, if you're building personal credit, always aim for accounts that you have full responsibility for, accounts that you can actually leverage to the best of your ability to say, this is something that I built on my own. This is something that I, created on my own. And from that angle, I am leveraging this personal credit profile so that I can take this and then ultimately create a proper underwriting procedure. So do AUs work? And the short answer is yes and no. And here's a couple of tactics that I want to add to the discussion to help you get some more clarity in reference to as to why this might not potentially be the ideal thing to do. Simply because you have to be very considerate about how you add those AUs, how you leverage them. What are some of the positions for AUs, and how you need to structure yourself around that, right? The first thing I would say is, when you're adding AUs, or you're even considering leveraging AUs, the first thing you need to understand is, are you getting cards issued to the primary card holder? So a lot of us, we go out there and we are leveraging AUs based on a service perspective. What I mean by that is, you're purchasing these AU trade lines to add to your profile. Now, the thing with that is, you have to be careful there, right? The service provider who's selling these trade lines and AU packages to you need to understand very clearly that the card holder that's issuing those AUs or adding you to their AU profiles needs to have an account or a card issued to them primarily. And it's not just to say that they have to send it to you. They can keep it themselves. But here's the trick: if that AU account is being added and no activity is going through that card or the account that is just brand new, the likelihood of them being suspicious about that account is extremely high. So that means that they can simply go back and say, let's shut this card down, and we're not going to let this slide. And they're going to start asking all sorts of questions, and then you might have to call the bank. And if you don't give them the appropriate answer, because they're trained to ask the specific type of questions, then they simply might not accept, keeping in a card open, because then what you're saying is, hey, look, I'm benefiting from a financial product, I'm getting paid. They're well aware of this EU service providers out there. The financial institutions, day by day, are, they're issuing credit cards. Obviously, they have to de-risk themselves. So the issue there is, if the providers or service people in the middle that are actually getting these good credit clients who have solid accounts and are working with them to add AUs to their profiles, and then you're the client that's adding AUs or purchasing them, the good mix and balance should always be like, hey, look, you need to make sure that whatever card holder that you're going after for them to add AUs with their bank, that they're getting cards issued, and then there are certain financial activities within those cards that are happening and they're not staying stagnant. And if those cards are staying stagnant for long periods of time and there's constant switches on the users, what's going to happen is it becomes extremely difficult, right? The banks can easily shut down your accounts. They can, for preserving the integrity of the financial institution, just simply say, hey, we no longer can keep your card open because we see there's no financial activity. Is there any specific reason why you'd like to hold it? So they can ask those questions. And then they might even go to the extent to say, look, you asked for AUs and we give you a series of AUs, and unfortunately, you're not leveraging those AUs. So is there a specific reason as to why you got them issued? Can you explain to us exactly what's going on? And you need to answer them. You can't, beat around the bush. You literally have to be straightforward, or you're putting yourself in a very high risk position here. So that's just something that I want you guys to really think about when it comes to AUs, right? So that's one of the many things. Now, this leads to the conversation of, well, now that we know that AUs, when they're issued, they have to have those usage, right, on those cards and stuff like that. What if they're not being used? Obviously, they're going to be shut down. But the secondary thing is the business of AUs, right? The trade line business in general, those who actually have the middle ground of finding card holders with good credit and then selling that same card as AU service to individuals who are looking for AUs. The middle ground is, if you're not using those cards regularly, obviously it's going to get shut down. But the other side to it is, how frequently is those card users being rotated, right? So now what happens is the card numbers are constantly changing. And therefore, the payments that you have to make on a regular basis to maintain those accounts are constantly switching as well. So what's going to happen is, on a period of a 1 year basis, you have 4 different accounts, possibly depending on the AU term, maybe even 5 different accounts that you have to constantly pay and monitor. And if that be the case, it gets really confusing and daunting. And for the most part, cardholders might not want to do that. And the financial institution will ask you, well, why are you issuing so many AUs? Are you leveraging all of them? And chances are, right, that you're not just adding one AU account to your card as a primary card holder. If a company or intermediary that is selling trade lines and AU packages is coming to you, they're going to ask you to add 5 or 6 individuals at the same time, sometimes 8. So if that's be the case, you have 8 different credit cards that you're going to have to get issued, and then use all of them to maintain the AU account and to maintain integrity with the bank so that they don't shut down your card because you're adding AUs and you're not using those cards. So there's that question as well. So we really have to be cautious in reference to the AU game now. Now, as you can see, it gets real complex real fast. The idea here is to give you the insight on exactly what to understand when it comes to this game and how to be extremely careful with it, because if you're not, like I said, you're positioning yourself in a very terrible way that is going to harm your ability to maintain a good account. Now, you as an individual looking for good credit, thinking about purchasing AUs, you need to wake up to this reality that the AU game sooner or later is going to come to a full halt. And the only time there is a legitimate purpose for authorized users, like I said, is if it's a family member or a relative or a business that for a specific purpose of leveraging that credit or using it with transactions that are coming in and out of that account. Then that will be a legitimate purpose for AUs. But those who are thinking about, just going out and buying AUs, albeit at the moment it is okay, it is safe, and it's fair game, sooner or later this is going to come to a halt, right? And I've been telling you guys, personal credit journey, the way to build solid credit, to really leverage it so that you can maximize the opportunity of establishing really high credit scores, requires you to establish primary accounts of your own, essential primaries, right? The non-essential ones, obviously, like the high-risk ones, like My Jewelers Club and all those guys, they fell off, right? They fell off because they're high risk, but also the credit bureaus are catching up to this game. And they're being very restrictive in terms of who has the right and the ability to report to them, do transactions with them, basically be able to check the consumer data and so on and so forth. And the reason why it's like that is because there's an extreme level of scrutiny coming from the federal authorities in reference to complying with the rules and regulations of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. This puts tremendous amount of pressure and regulatory compliance on their side to maintain accounts of legitimate creditors that don't mess around the credit profiles of consumers, and they don't jeopardize the integrity of a credit profile. Now, that's extremely hypocritical because we know the credit bureaus make mistakes all the time. However, you can't go worse than what it is, right? You can only try to go up. So to maintain the standard compliance and stuff like that, there's a lot of AU trade lines that will be coming up, but also they're going to be shutting off as well as quickly. So it's a very, very dangerous game, but also at the same time, it's a very daunting game. So if you're thinking about it, long term here is, are authorized users worth it? Yes. But here's the thing. You need to know the individual that you're dealing with at a first arm's length position. Don't have middlemen. If there is middle ground or intermediaries and stuff like that, make sure they know what they're doing. Chances are they don't, because they're just out to make a quick buck. It's fine. It's the business we're in. Here's the thing, though. You have to be extremely cautious in reference to setting that up properly. So with that said, I want you guys to really think about establishing primary accounts as a credit building platform, right? Like, go out there, save a $3,000 or $4,000, establish 2 or 3 bank accounts, use secure deposits to get credit cards with major tier 1 banks, by the way, you know, not just some random credit unions or community banks, but tier 1 banks. And the reason I say that is because those are the guys that have financial products on a diverse basis, have the most institutional backing, you know, and so on and so forth. Those are the guys that will inflate the value of your underwriting profile. Whereas the other guys don't necessarily are internationally known or nationally known, and they're very small, and albeit you can have generous credit with them at the beginning, chances are, like, if you want cash lines of credit, installment loans in the future, things that actually make a difference as to leveraging your credit to build wealth, it won't have significant impact. So you always have to go for the tier 1 institutions, because those are the best friends you have, and those are the guys that you can leverage the maximum credit with, right? So I hope that this gives you some insights on what to do, right? So again, just to recap, authorized users, yes, worth it, but again, those cards have to be issued, they have to be used, they have to show some sort of financial activity, and there cannot be constant rotation of accounts every 2 months or 3 months. It has to be consistent. So with that, you know, you also need to establish primary accounts. Like I said, save $3,000 to $5,000, take those deposits into institutions, 1 or 2 or 3 maybe, get secured accounts with them, establish credit relationships with those guys, and those have to be major institutions. There are chances where you won't be able to qualify because you have issues with your check systems. That's another entire topic we're going to talk about later on in another video. But what I'm saying is, if you have issues there, then perhaps you need to start, you know, establishing a relationship with those guys, right? Like, if you had a bad check in the past and there's a liability there of like $200, $300, then talk to the legal department and create a settlement offer so that you can actually open a legitimate bank account with that same institution. The goal is not to burn bridges, but establish bankable relationships, as I always say. So I hope this video gave you guys some insights on what to do, what are some of the steps to take, and how to go about making sure that you can leverage your personal credit the proper way. We obviously briefly discussed about authorized users, but that just gives you context in reference to what to do next and how to go about, you know, pursuing that avenue. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to smash that thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe, turn the notifications on to all. Share this video for those who need to see these things about authorized users and how to go about establishing proper credit and the reasons as to why primary trade lines are also very dangerous if not done right. And with that said, this is definitely your guide and mentor, Ali Tarafter. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now.